Hi guys. Today I wanted to talk about some books that I've DNFed multiple times. These are almost like the bane of my existence because they're intriguing enough to draw me in again and again and again, but not intriguing enough to keep me pulled in, keep me drawn in. And we'll talk about some maybe different reasons why we DNF books, or why I DNF books for sure. So, I mean, I mentioned this in a few of my videos, but I DNF really easily. If I'm not enjoying my time, I don't want to put myself through it, nor do I want to put my husband through it who has to listen to me rant about like this book, you know, and I don't want to give an author a bad review if I can just not read it, you know. So I don't often read books that I think are going to be less than a 3. You know, if I can tell from the beginning it's going to be there, I just DNF and don't leave a review or don't leave a star rating, right? Because why am I here for? I'm not here for that, you know? Does that make sense? Hopefully. So some of the books that I have DNF'd, and this is going to be like probably throughout my time on booktube, more like lurking on booktube, not actually being here, like posting videos. So the first one I want to talk about is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I think I've read the first half of this 3 times. At least 3 times. And I don't know what it is about this book. I love the idea of fantasy and dragons, and I want to give Samantha Shannon a fair shot. And this seems like the most likely one I would enjoy, but every time I get to like 50% and I realize I just don't care. I don't care about where the story is going. But the first half is always so intriguing that I would see other people reading it and I'm like, or reading the prequel that came out a little while ago, and it just reminds me, like, I want to read that, but then I start reading it and I don't want to read it. That's probably one of the most frustrating ones, because it's me, it's not the book, I don't think, if that makes sense. I'm just not enjoying it. I know other people are loving it and enjoying it. It's some people's favorite book, and it's just not hitting right with me, and that's so frustrating. So the next one on this list is kind of for the same reason. It's Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and I love dragon books. I absolutely love them. Like, it could be, like, I used to tell myself, like, it could be a crap dragon book, but it has dragons in it, so I'm gonna enjoy it. And now I can't say that anymore, because this is 2 dragon books that I can't for the life of me finish. I have tried so many different times with Iron Flame, and I think there is a great, I think there is a big factor that a lot of people were talking about, like how terrible it was and how much they regretted reading it and all these things that have influenced me. I will admit that. And I don't want it to have influenced me, so I keep trying with it because I want to love it. I want to love it. I really enjoyed the first one, and I think because my expectations were pretty low when I read the first one, I enjoyed it just that much more. And it was one of those books even if it's not a favorite of the year, I think I read it 2 years ago. Anyway, I couldn't stop reading it. I was flying through it, and at that time I was with some of my best friends, and I was like sneaking off to read it because I just wanted to know what happened. But that wasn't the case for the first, I think I've read the first 100 pages of that one 4 or 5 times. I've tried multiple times, via audiobook, via physical book, both at the same time, ebook as well. Like, there has just been no format of that book that I've been able to force myself through, which makes me really sad. So another one on this list, this one is definitely a me, it's me, not the book, and that's Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. I absolutely love everything Margaret Rogerson has done apart from this book, which is part of what confuses me so much. Every single book that she's released, I've given 5 stars. And I always told myself, like, no matter what she releases, I'm going to read it. Until this one came out. This one came out, and I can remember vividly the first 50 pages. I've read it 2 or 3 times, at least the first 50 pages. There's one time I got like halfway through the book, and I was like, I have no idea what's happened. Like, I can only remember the first 50 pages, and the rest of it, I don't know where my brain was, but it wasn't reading this book. And so part of why I'm pretty sure it's me, hopefully, not the book. But I really want to love this one. I would love your thoughts on it below, on all of these books actually. Like, if you love them, hate them, I would love your thoughts on them. But Vespertine is, it makes me so frustrated because I want to love all of her books, and she hasn't released, as far as I can remember, a new one recently. I think that's the most current one that's come out. And so I'm other than the, like, short prequel, not prequel, but short second book to Sorcery of Thorns, which it's like a 1.5 novel. Anyway, I want to love it so much, and I just can't get there, and it kills me. It kills me a little bit on the inside, not going to lie. The next one is The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't even know what to say about this one. I think I've read up to 60%. So I've read up to 60% once, and then I started it over, and I've read portions of the beginning another 2 times. And I can't seem to really understand what's going on. And I've read a lot of reviews that kind of made me feel justified in putting it down. But at the same time, like, it still keeps calling me back, and I want to enjoy it as much as other people are enjoying it, and I can't find it within myself. I feel no attachment to any of the characters. I don't understand their motivations. But I still want to know what happens, and I still want to be present and involved in the story. But I don't understand the magical... I think one of my biggest gripes is that I can't understand what's happening in this magical world because the rules just don't quite make sense for me. And so I struggled to really understand this world that we're supposed to be in, and this world that we're exploring but not really exploring, but kind of exploring. So I'm not sure about this one. Like, I can't see myself going back and finally finishing it, which is really sad. I would love to, but I don't think this book is for me, and so I just haven't. I've just let it go multiple times. The next one, I feel a little bit more justified in this one, I guess, sort of. Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurin. I love the first one, Serpent and Dove. Love that book. I've read it and I've reread it, which for me is actually kind of a big thing because I'm trying to get more into the habit of rereading my favorites. The only problem is when they don't stand up, then it kind of hurts. And I regret my decisions. But this one actually, like, held up after a few years, and I still really enjoyed it. Now, the second and third one, I can't say anything about the third one. I've never even, like, touched it, you know. But the second one is just such a tone shift from the first one. It feels foreign, and it feels like I'm not even reading the same story, which really sucks. And I've read a lot of reviews about how people say, like, the series just goes downhill from, like, the first one is great and then it just goes downhill the rest of the way, which makes me feel like, oh, okay, I really don't want to finish it if even the third one doesn't get better. But I've tried multiple times because I'll think about how great the first one was, and I'm like, I really want to, like, see where else it goes and, like, what else happens, but at the same time, I don't really. Anyway. Another one, I think this one is gonna hurt a lot of people potentially, because I know it's a kind of a booktube darling, is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue by Victoria Schwab. I think this one's definitely just like a me problem, not the book problem. This is another one where I read more than half of this book the first time and had no idea what was going on. And I think part of it is I don't love stories that are we're just following someone throughout their whole life kind of thing, and with her life it's never ending. It seems like there didn't feel like a climax we were building to, and so I struggled to feel like if there was anything actually happening or anything that was moving the plot forward. Obviously that's my opinion, you can disagree with it, that's quite all right. But yeah, that one, I ended up DNFing it the first time, and I was about halfway through, and then I was like, this still sounds so interesting, and I still, and people kept raving about it, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try again, because maybe it was just timing, but I tried it again, and I think I got like 15 or 20% into the book, and I still felt the same, and I was like, it's not timing, it's me and the book, we don't agree. So as much as I wish I could love that one, I just can't get into it. I need a plot to drive me forward rather than just outside influences in like acting on the character. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I hope it makes sense. It makes sense in my mind, but I don't know if I translated it well enough. The next one on this list is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I love a Brandon Sanderson book, but Elantris has not been for me. I have read the first 100 pages of this, I think 7 or 8 times. No exaggeration, not kidding, 7 or 8 times. Because I'm like, I love Brandon Sanderson books, so why can't I get into this one? I still, to this day, have no idea why I can't get into this one. And especially because it was announced that it was going to be a series, I tried again. And at the time, like, I originally read it because I was like, oh, this is one of Brandon Sanderson's only standalones. So, like, that seems like a great read for me to go with. So I'm not, like, getting myself into a bunch of series, but I still don't know what it is about this book that I can't get through. I don't know. All I know is I've read it 7 or 8 times, the first 100 pages, and I can't seem to finish it. The next one on this list is a little bit of a pile of shame, if we want to call it that. Some days I want to finish it, other days I'm like, no, I'm never going to finish it, but more often I'm like, oh, I want to finish that, is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I even own it and like gifted it to my husband because I'm pretty sure he's gonna love it. Like, I want to love it, and I can't wrap my mind around everything that is happening. By the time I get to, further along plot points in this behemoth of a novel, I have forgotten really important aspects from the beginning. And I think that's probably the major flaw for me in reading this book is I need things to be connecting and happening quicker than it was in that book. Otherwise, I forget really pertinent details. I don't have the greatest capability of recalling things throughout the novel that were important at the beginning, but we didn't mention it was important at the beginning, if that makes sense. So, but my husband is really great at it, and I know I'm pretty sure he's going to be obsessed with it once he reads it. So I'm excited for him to tell me about all the things that I missed out on, because I don't think it's one I'm ever going to really be able to devote myself to without having like a spreadsheet of like all the different possible plot points that could be important, so that the ending is really impactful. And the fact that it's turning into a very long series now is another aspect in which I'm like, I don't think I can, if I can't even get through the first book that is that long with that many plot points I could potentially miss, I don't know if I can get through 4 or 5 or 6, like, I don't think that one's really feasible for me. I want it to be, but I don't think it is. The next one on this list that's like really weird, I don't understand why I can't seem to get through this one, is A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn, the Veronica Speedwell series. This should be right up my alley considering the time frame. I believe there's magical elements of it. There's a slow burn romance. Like, all of these things should be screaming, this is a book for Charity. Like, she's gonna enjoy this. But every time I've tried to read it, it has felt so dry that I get halfway through and I'm like, I'm not even enjoying this. Why am I reading it? That one hurts. That one hurts too, because I wish I enjoyed it. 'Cause if I enjoyed it even just like a little bit more, I would push myself through it. And I have tried this one, I think 4 times. And I can't seem to finish it. I can't seem to push every time I get to the point where I'm like, I would rather do anything else other than read, I'm like, I should let go of this book. I shouldn't be reading it. And then obviously sometimes I go back and try it again because maybe it's just timing, but a lot of times it's just that the book and I don't have agreeable agendas, I guess. No, that's not the last. I don't know why I just said that. But another one is Radiance by Grace Draven. I've tried this one, I think 3 times. 2 of those times I only read probably about like 15, maybe 20% of the book. But there was one time I got almost to halfway. And that one is the one that kills me the most, because if I just read like 15% or the beginning of the book, I can usually convince myself to go back and finish it and push past that small bit, but when I get to 50% and I don't want to be reading it, or this felt similar to, which one was it? This felt similar to The Invisible Life of Addie, Larue, where I got to a point where I was like, it doesn't feel like anything's happening. Like, and part of it might be travel journeys. Maybe that's part of my problem. But it felt like we were traveling for a really, really long time. They hate each other. They don't even like the look of each other. And I felt like I got to halfway and I was like, this still hasn't changed. We're not progressing at all. This is supposed to be a romance, and I feel nothing but disgust for both of them, and for what I would feel if I was in either of their situations. Like, I didn't feel an ounce of like, oh, that's so sweet, or that's so, like, nothing. I don't think I'll ever go back and read this one. I think this one's a lost cause for me. The next one is the Archived by Victoria Schwab. I think part of the problem for me with this one is the language that's used. Not like language, but like literally the way that the characters, like their dialogue and how they interact with each other. There's a lot of it that just, I can't, like, it irks me, and I don't know why, and I hope that's not like a bad thing, but part of it, like, I've read it on audio, I've read it on ebook, and I've tried it with both as well, and I thought the audiobook would help me get through it faster. That was not the case. I couldn't stand the sound in the audiobook of like the accent that they were using. But just like the synopsis of this sounds so interesting, and I want to be invested, and I just can't get through the way they talk to each other. It's so strange. I don't like the dialogue that was written for the characters, nor do I like the accent that was used in the audiobook. So I don't really know. I think this is obviously just a me problem, because like, I don't think anyone else would care, but I can't seem to read that one, even though I've tried this one. I have not ever gotten to the halfway point, which is probably why I keep trying. But I've gotten to the 15 or 20% at least 6 times, and it irks me that I can't get farther, but also I don't want to get farther. It's weird. The last one I have on this list makes me a little depressed. Is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I have read the rest of the series and love the rest of the series, but this one, I think partially it's because we have such a jump in perspective. We go from Feyre to Nesta, and I don't care for Nesta's perspective. I really don't. There's a lot of things about this book that I've read in reviews, and I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm gonna pass on that one. But at the same time, I wish I could read it and enjoy it like I've read the other books in that series and enjoyed. But I just can't seem to find it within myself to enjoy it. And part of it is being outside of the main character we started the story with, and suddenly being in someone else's shoes and seeing those main characters, and they seem different than when we were in their shoes, if that makes sense. I don't know. Overall, weird experience for me. I think I've gotten to about 40% in this one. It's a long book too. I've gotten to 40% one time and just was reading anything else. Like, I didn't want to pick it up. I would prefer, at that point I was preferring to read anything else than that one, which is when I knew I needed to just put it down. And then I've read the beginning portions of it another 2 or 3 times, and was never enjoying it enough to push myself through, which really sucks, because I really want to see what happens in that series, but I dread picking up that book again. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that one. I might try it again. I'm not really sure. I might just wait until the rest of the books in that series come out and see what other people's reviews are, and see if it'd be something I would actually enjoy. Yikes. But those are the books that I've DNF'd multiple times. I hope you enjoyed watching. I would love to hear what books you've DNF'd multiple times, or if you have any opinions on the books that I've listed in this video. What were your thoughts? Did you have a similar experience? Did you have different experiences? I would love to hear them down below. And I will see you next time. Bye.